Wake up, get out of bed, freshen up, eat and get on with work at home is the morning routine of most remote workers. No need to brave the morning traffic jams or the packed public transport because technology has made things easier for all. But with all this ease comes a danger. When the pandemic first began, remote working was not a choice that organizations made willingly. IT teams were forced to figure out ways to accommodate this sudden shift, and cybercriminals took full advantage of the unpreparedness of enterprises and businesses to launch attacks. Now, as the physical dangers subside, it looks as though remote working is here to stay. According to the Microsoft Digital Defense Report 2021, 81% of enterprises have begun adopting a hybrid workplace structure. Many organizations have found remote working and BYOD policies beneficial even among all the dangers, which begs the question, do the benefits outweigh the risks? To find out, we decided to consult Mazhar Zoy Ali, General Manager, Customer Success at Microsoft Malaysia regarding the dangers of hybrid workforce and bring your own devices, BYOD environments.
Most industries made this shift to remote work at the start of pandemic, which created new attack surfaces for cyber criminals to take advantage of, such as home devices, for example, being used for business purposes. Now, remote workers are far more vulnerable to the cyber attacks because they do not have those security protections that home office systems offer them, such as firewalls and blacklisted IP addresses, etc. Even now, as many countries are entering the endemic phase, organizations still are encouraging people to do hybrid work. And to be honest, threat actors have been quick to exploit these vulnerabilities. Therefore, in response, organizations must enforce various security controls to enhance their security postures. And to be honest, organizations that do not maintain basic security hygiene practices in the new workplace model, like applying regular security patches and updates or turning on multi-factor authentication, are essentially placing their data and employees' privacy at much greater risk. Stay-at-home workers have become targets for hackers since beginning of pandemic, because they are exposed in a way that office networks aren't. For example, home Wi-Fi networks are often not well secured, relying on weaker equipment, protected with weak passwords, and shared by different users and devices, which may be infected with malware that collects vital information. Now, home workers may also be vulnerable to phishing scams that open access to company networks because they feel less security conscious outside of office. And remote work has prompted many workplaces to adopt applications such as video conferencing or teleconferencing tools that have their own security weaknesses. Now, in short, I would concur with this notion of companies having more remote workers are more susceptible to cyber attacks, but at the same time, it has its own benefits as well, allowing the hybrid model to continue, which means that the organizations will have to create the right balance of allowing the hybrid model and making sure that they have got good security postures. See, the practice of bring your own device offers many benefits to an organization, but it does not come without any risk. So especially when it comes to security and data protection, because it leads to many vulnerabilities in the information security space. I'll give you a few examples, the key ones. For example, intentional or accidental information leakage from the unprotected devices or unmanaged devices. That's risk number one. Risk number two, mostly personal devices may lack the data encryption capabilities, which means there is an increased risk of data loss because now your business data and your personal data are stored on the same device. So that's the second risk. The third one may be the personal devices may be more vulnerable to malicious applications or malware, which can be a security threat to the company's network. Last but not the least, with BYOD, the responsibility to manage the passwords, antivirus and anti-malware protection, security patches, and other safety measures for the device falls into the device owner, meaning that organization would have little or no control over safeguarding the devices. Now, all of these things, in short, organizations may need to modify its current IT infrastructure and tech support to make it BYOD compliant across the whole range of devices and heterogeneous applications that your employees will be using. So the same comment at the end. It brings its own benefits, but the organizations need to be prepared and aware of the risks that BYOD model carries.
While remote working and BYOD do open up an organization to a greater degree of risk, especially if they are unprepared, it looks like they are here to stay. Even beyond the pandemic, according to IDC, more than 56% of employees in Asia Pacific prefer flexible working conditions, which allow them to work both in the office and remotely. With that said, today's employees have access to an increasing amount of sensitive corporate data, and because they are regarded as the weakest link in the cybersecurity chain, they have become a target for hackers, as Mazhar had mentioned. The effect of employee attitude on an organization's cybersecurity intrigued us, so we decided to talk to Nico Chausin, Director of Cybersecurity at Microsoft, about the subject to find out more.
Yeah, the role of an employee is critical. Employees have to remain vigilant and active participants in their company's cyber defense. Because when employees are more secure, the company is protected, and in turn it helps better protect its customer. 75 organizations around the world experienced some kind of phishing attack in 2021. This is a really large number. Phishing continues to be a favorite method because it simply works. So even though Microsoft cyber defense is one of the most sophisticated in the world, we rely on our employee to serve as the last line of defense, to stop attacker from gaining access to corporate systems and resources. And as our CIO Brett Arsenault always say, hackers don't break in, they log in. Training is a critical way to educate employees. At Microsoft, we are using real-life examples of security threats that have affected employees and teams. We feature local well-known actors that employees can relate to. You have to switch from traditional compliance training to make security more engaging, more relatable, and fun, but also emphasize the importance of employees using best practices and being responsible for security. We encourage companies to also run enterprise-wide phishing simulations. Employees will talk about it, and it will slowly build this cyber defense muscle as employees report the phishing email to IT and to their peers. This should be coupled with ongoing digital campaigns that highlight the security team's strategy to keep the company and its data safe. Also, as a manager at Microsoft, we use a framework called Model Coach Care. Applying the model part as a manager means leading and showing how to actively participate in cyber defense and modeling best practices. If your company is interested in changing the way they approach cybersecurity and its training, you should evaluate what resonates with employees and adjust accordingly. At Microsoft, the success of our trainings is due to our emphasis on the why behind each training and awareness campaign. This has helped employees understand the importance of their participation. We may tend to only view an employee as a threat through the lens of insider risk, but even well-intentioned employees can also weaken the organization and ultimately become a threat without proper cybersecurity training. BYOD allows for more flexibility and increased productivity. However, it also means greater risks. The modern threat landscape is increasingly people-centric. The vast majority of attacks prey on people and human nature. Even automatic exploits are frequently deployed in ways that still require initial execution by users rather than devices, making it critical for employees to be active and vigilant participants. For example, in a training I did yesterday covering the risk of oversharing, they showed how it was trivial to run a phishing campaign with the information shared in an out-of-office automatic reply. Often the employees will leave their holiday location, their phone number, the structure of their team, the contact details of who to reach in their absence. It is then very easy to impersonate the employee or a colleague. So So you are balancing productivity and flexibility with a greater duty on your employees to develop the right habit and reflexes. This must be supported by impactful training.
As Nico said, the role of an employee is absolutely critical in ensuring companies do not become a victim of cyber attacks. But what of devices? Should BYOD be allowed in an organization, or should it be banned to ensure corporate data security? Before we find our answers to that important question, let us list out the benefits of BYOD for enterprises. Benefits of BYOD: saves costs, improves employee productivity, increases employee satisfaction, and offers greater flexibility. After gaining a better understanding of the benefits, dangers, and impact of remote working and employee attitude, it was time for us to reach out to Dr. Sirikan Pukawana, Security Advisor at Microsoft, to find out whether BYOD was truly worth the risk.
When we allow employees to work remotely from anywhere, right? Can be from home, can be from a coffee shop. And they also allow the employees to use their own personal devices to work. That increase the number of targets for attacks. It increased the attack surface of the organizations. In other words, when we open more doors and let people coming in, definitely we would have more possibility to be attacked and more cybersecurity risk. That is really challenging questions, and I do believe that is a journey for every single organizations that have hybrid work environment or bring your own device environment. In order to stay secure in these situations, firstly, the organization need to increase the security awareness of the employees. The employee need to know that, hey, now we have more risk in terms of cybersecurity. And the organization also need to educate, it's like what Nico just mentioned, the employee to be able to spot the potential attack and know what to do, what not to do when they're facing a potential attack. For example, if an employee receives a potential phishing email in their mailbox, they need to know straight away what to do, what not to do, which team they need to reach to, okay, which tool they need to use in order to stop before that attack happen or reduce the potential harm to the organizations. The attitude of the employee is also important. Right. They need to believe that they are part of organizations and they also responsible to protect the organization access as well, because they are the front door of organization. Secondly, the organization need to have right security capability and control that are suitable for the current situations. Along with their current basic security hygiene, policy or control, adopting zero trust security strategy could help them as well. The reason is why, because zero trust security is applying the concept of never trust and always verify into your organizations. It means that it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter which devices you're using, which location you're connecting to, or when. The organization always verify that entity to be able to ensure that that entity is trustable, healthy, and secure before the organization allow that entity to connect with the organization environment. The security awareness, the attitude of employees, and the right security capability could help the organization to stay secure in this kind of new working style. So I believe that when we're talking about hybrid work environment or bring your own device environment, we're not talking about the environment or the situation that we have only 5 employees or 5 devices. We're talking about 10 employees, 10 devices, right? 1,000, 10,000 employees devices, right? In that situation and with that complexity, how organizations could ensure that every single device are safe and secure, right? That when mobile device management jump in and play the role. Mobile device management is a tool or a solution that helps the organization to manage the devices, enforce security policy into those devices, monitoring those devices at scale. in order to ensure that all of those devices stay healthy and secure.
Discussion surrounding the security of the hybrid workforce and BYOD is vital for organizations as today's realities require it. While the benefits may outweigh the risks in certain areas, enterprises must be cautious as the infection of a single personal device or the ill intent of a former employee without necessary precautions in place may lead to an organization-wide breach. It may not happen today or tomorrow, but the danger is always there. Even if you force employees to work in the office using company devices, the threat will always be present. All that can be done is to take the necessary steps to deter cybercriminals. Remember, educate your employees on the importance of cybersecurity, have a solid BYOD policy in place, employ a trusted mobile device management solution, implement a zero-trust approach to security, where implicit trust is removed from all computing infrastructure. Always have a backup. Although it isn't 100% deterrent, it is better to be prepared and know you have done everything in your power to keep your organization safe than ask what if when an attack has ended.